welcome to episode 7 of the Business of Creativity podcast. And today I'm with my friend Rie, and she's speaking to me. Hi, Rie from London.
Hi, Lizzie.
Thank you very much for being on the show today. It's really nice to talk to you. I know
Thank you
you're
very
also,
much for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I have to say, I know you're sort of active with podcasting, and we've sort of done a little bit together. I've sort of been on your podcast a little way back.
You've been fantastic.
And I always find you quite sort of inspiring for these kind of ideas. And there's your dog. That's Baxter. So we've got Rie, and we've also got Rie's dog, Baxter, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, we've got another dog, but the other one is quieter.
He's behaving. So. He's watching the show. Okay. So today's episode is about the creativity of language, and this is the business of creativity. So we're sort of talking in a kind of creative context, but also like a business context. So kind of language and creativity, but also language within your professional context, which is interpreting and also some translation. So there's lots of really interesting points to go into today. But let's start with our obligatory warm-up question. We're always talking about favourites. And today's question then is, what is your favourite subtitled foreign language film? Actually, we should say foreign language film, subtitled dubbing, whichever you prefer.
That's a hard one to decide.
Too many to choose from.
Yes, exactly. But for one special reason, I would like to suggest the Bridget Jones' Diary.
Oh!
That's not really foreign for you, is it?
Not really, is it?
No, not at all.
So have you seen that what have you watched that in then? English with the Japanese subtitling?
Subtitles, yes.
Okay.
Because I was watching with my kids. At the time, they only understood Japanese, really.
Okay.
So in the hope that they would get the gist of the story and how funny it is and how English it is, that sort of thing, although it was a Hollywood film, I think. Yeah. And my kids were about 11 or thereabouts. So that was like a 1 or 2 years before we moved to the UK. So I was just, I was kind of busy trying to introduce Britishness or British cultural, dosage.
Yeah.
The kids.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Because we were in Japan.
Yeah, that's great. Because that's the thing about watching foreign language films, isn't it? It can introduce a whole new kind of culture and country and customs too. Yeah, it can open up kind of a new window on the world a bit. I know recently I sort of had a phase of watching some Hong Kong films.
Yeah, how was it?
Yeah, and I just loved it because, a long time ago now, like 12 years ago, I lived in Shanghai for 1 year, and both of these Hong Kong films that I watched had a sort of Shanghai connection in them, and it was just so nostalgic and
sounds nice.
Yeah, it just brings back such good memories, and I think that is the nice thing. It can take you back to a place that you haven't been to for a long time, and those kind of cultural kind of aspects or things that you loved that you can kind of see on the screen. So
that's nice.
Yeah, that was good. But which do you prefer? Because some people prefer the subtitles, some people prefer dubbing. Which do you prefer?
It depends on the work, I think. Like with Bridget Jones, I quite enjoyed the subtitles for a kind of a sinister reason.
Sinister subtitles. I'm intrigued.
Well, I was kind of. I was not really checking all the subtitles if they were correct or anything. That wasn't my intention. I was just, like genuinely watching it. I didn't need the subtitles, but for the sake of my kids' presence, and then just couldn't help, couldn't help reading them, right? I don't know if you know this, but the setting is in the Christmas season. Yeah, and then they talk about mince pies.
Yeah.
But it was translated as meat pies.
Meat pies.
For example.
Yummy Christmas meat pies. I love a festive meat pie. I know, but that's the difficulty, isn't it? When you do speak both languages, sometimes you can't help but get into the editor zone where you're hearing the English, you're looking at the Japanese, and you're like, and that's the difficulty, I guess, for you. When we've got two languages and you understand both perfectly well, you can't help, especially in your line of work.
I try.
Yeah.
But I certainly wouldn't mistranslate that. I would know mince pies or mince pies, not meat pies. But I kind of get that. And I was just, philosophizing it. Okay, mince pies turned into meat pie because of mince, not mince meat.
It is
but
confusing.
Meat, as in, is nothing. I shouldn't say nothing to do with it. It is to do with meat, but it is not meat. But,
I think it used to be in the olden days. Yeah. And then it sort of transformed. I don't know what's in it, to be honest, these days, but it doesn't taste anything
exactly.
like
So unless they're really familiar with the British culture, they wouldn't know. But that was published.
Yeah.
That was on the millions of copies.
Yeah.
So I thought,
Oh, so it sort of ruined the experience for you a little bit. Yeah.
Well, it was funny for me. So it was like, okay, what else? Kind of situation. That's why I said it was kind of sinister. I didn't mean to.
I know.
I'm not a nice person.
We believe you. It's okay. So that's good. Yes, that's interesting. An interesting point. So we're talking about language. We're talking about interpreting and translation. So for some people who are watching this, I think there'll be people who are watching this who are very familiar with working between languages, with interpreting, with translation. And I think there'll also be other people who, if you sort of talk about interpreting and translation, and then you give this word sort of creativity, creative thinking, creative problem solving, I don't think they'll immediately understand, maybe that link. So, it would be great to get your insight into the world of sort of interpreting and translation and the mindset of an interpreter and what the work actually demands. And we can sort of pick that apart a little bit. And also specifically, between these, like this language pair of Japanese and English. But just give us a bit of a background about, your journey with taking on a language and using it in a professional context and your work in interpreting.
Oh, okay. 20 odd years in a few sentences. Yes, exactly.
The stopwatch is on.
Yeah, okay then. So 20 odd years ago, I started interpreting when a friend of mine, from Mother Group, International Mother Group, asked me to help out on a sport event.
Mm-hmm.
It was like World Cup, like volleyball World Cup kind of thing. And then until then, I wasn't interested in becoming an interpreter or translator because I thought you would always have to study. Something like that. That was the image I thought. it's not really appealing. That's why I thought. But when I was involved in that, and I thought, wow, this is interesting. And also that because it was challenging in a good way, very much. And then because I wasn't training to become an interpreter, it was the first time that first opportunity to observe professional interpreters work, in action kind of thing. Okay. Just before my eyes. Yeah. So, this is what they do. And, wow, I'd like to give it a try kind of thing. Not just like, it looks like fun. That's not what I thought. I was like constantly stressed for the entire week. And then, I wouldn't say the word, but I had some, stomach conditions for the entire week, that sort of thing. But on the contrary, at the end of the week, I thought, I'd like to really nail it one day. Okay. Do you see? Yeah. So that really got me going. Yeah. That's how I started. And that's how I started training in that, yes.
World Championship Volleyball.
Yeah, that was the World Cup Volleyball. Wow. Which was held in Japan. Yeah. It was. So my role was not really big. It was not like for chairman or vice chairman. Yeah. I was basically accompanying a medical delegate. So a lot to do with doping. Okay. So you don't have to speak much. Yeah. So basically, I was just accompanying a French medical delegate then. Okay. She was very nice, very professional. So when it, when it was kind of like technical, medical, then it would have been a little bit, difficult. But other than that, it was okay. It was not like, there will be casualties or, injuries. Yeah. It was hardly that. It was basically, all to do with the doping. So it was okay. Wow. So that was your kind of introduction into the world of interpreting. Exactly. And so that was the first one. From there? Yeah. After that, a couple of months later, I moved to Tokyo because I thought you really have to be in the cosmopolitan area or a capital area to work in a language-related position. Because they tend to be headquarters, and headquarters predominantly are located in Tokyo or Tokyo area suburbs. Yeah. So, although where I'm from, which is Nagoya, is a large enough city, though still that's not a capital really. Yeah. So I moved. Yeah. Then I worked for an American company called QVC Japan. For several years. Yeah, the TV shopping, yes. Yeah. Oh wow! God, what an eclectic career! Volleyball, QVC shopping. What a fantastic start! Yes, it was all live as well. So I had to work round the clock. Yes, very much. So sometimes 3 a.m, sometimes 11 at night, or 8 a.m. Basically, like literally round the clock kind of thing. Not every day, but there were special days. Then you would have to do that. And then after that, acquired a visa, independent visa, and moved to the UK with the kids when they finished their primary school in Japan. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I became freelance, and since then I've been quite fortunate to work for, the national broadcaster. The BBC. The BBC. Can you see? Can you actually see it? I said it. The TV, television, as well as like a radio. Oh, wow. Yes, quite enjoyable. I really like it. And Britain's Got Talent.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I was watching that on YouTube with my kids last night. I'm not even kidding.
Really?
Yes, we're watching like all these like auditions where it made me think of my podcast and think, oh my God, am I one of the contestants that's doing well, or just thinks they're doing well and everyone's like, oh. Anyway, separate story.
Do you know what? I don't know how they do it now, but when I was involved in that, the contestants are not given, these incomes.
Yeah.
The incoming earphones or whatever. They're not given those.
Right.
But only the microphone, the small one here. So it picks up their voice, but they can't really hear the questions.
Oh, they can't hear the judges?
No, they can't. So that was my problem as well. And then, the guy I was supporting as well. So we can hear something. Yeah. We can hear the voice or sound, but the words aren't clear.
Oh, no.
Because all these, big speakers are facing the audience, obviously. Yes. Yeah. And then when it is all edited and complete, of course, it's all crystal clear. You can hear everything. You can see everything. Yeah. Because it is done that way for the audience. But from our point of view, like literally, we're like, eh?
Yeah. That's a nightmare. That's horrible. Yeah, that would be very stressful.
Especially when you couldn't hear the first word, the question word. It was like, did you say why or did you say where? Or that was very important, but.
Oh, you just said something important. Oh no, that was a nightmare. But you enjoyed it though overall?
Yes, very much, very much.
Oh,
and the person that I was assisting, he was very dedicated and very, how should I say, like self-catered. He had 2 big suitcases full of gadgets.
Yeah.
Oh, like a drones and, like champagne bottle and, things like that, like plastic glasses and, plastic glasses. Well, wine glasses and things like that. So he had to bring all of them all the way from Japan.
Wow.
But he didn't have anyone to help him clear up or anything. Yeah. So I was helping as much as I could. So a lot of people... a lot of runners thought I was his manager.
Oh, my goodness. So did he do well? Did he do well on the show?
Yes. He was one of the finalists. I think,
my goodness. Oh, my goodness.
But I probably in America he got the golden buzzer. I think.
Cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, wow. That's amazing. So you've had some
We're still in touch, so
are you?
We're friends. We're okay.
Oh, that's lovely. That is an amazing start to it all.
Thank you.
But, so when you're interpreting, and I guess when we talk about interpreting, we're talking sort of consecutive or like simultaneous, maybe a lot of simultaneous interpreting, which is obviously, when the speaker is speaking, that you're kind of giving an instant interpretation as they are speaking, which kind of seems a very stressful way to work for me. I don't know.
You can say that again.
It's like kind of mind-boggling to me how you can hear someone talking in English and instantly you're giving the message back into Japanese, but it must be extremely intensive work.
Yes, and it requires special technique, set of skills and technique, like the language combination between Japanese and English. I wouldn't dare say that's the most difficult or that's more tricky. I mean, trickier than other language combinations. I wouldn't dare say that. But it's imagine interpreting from Japanese into English.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, Lucy, with Japanese language, the verb always comes at the end.
Yeah.
A little bit like German, I think. I don't speak
so,
German
apparently.
at all.
No.
Right.
But yes, I think, I've heard it.
And then the tense or whatever the marker that you know it is, okay, it's about the past or in future or, you know, that sort of stuff comes at the very end. So you have to, you're inclined to wait till the end. But by then, the whole sentence with all the explanations, like because and why and everything is in before the verb, it's all gone.
Yeah.
So somehow you have to teach yourself, or you have to come up with a strategy.
Yeah.
Not to allow that.
Yes.
You have to basically pass all the information before landing on the verb.
Right.
Whereas you can basically translate backwards.
Yeah.
Right, into English, because almost, well, I think the word order is almost the opposite. Like Japanese people would speak like Master Yoda.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, it really does. Yeah.
I still on you are kind of order, isn't it?
I used to do a bit of translation sort of way back. And it used to feel like, you know what, if you just take a sentence and flip everything on its head, you will basically have the translation.
Exactly.
So, but obviously, because we sort of talked a little bit about this kind of creative problem solving and like solving the characteristics of these languages very, very quickly. But you know, you really don't get much time to do that at all, and it just amazes me the speed of which people can do it.
Yes.
Yeah. But also, but talking about translation as well, then, because I know sort of interpreting is your sort of main focus. Is that fair to say? And then, but you also sort of do translation, and you know, I know that we've spoken about. Like you said, like the strategies or these tactics you have for like taking a message in one language and you can't just take those words and put them into the new language. Like there really is some space there where you do have to sort of think creatively, depending on what kind of translation it is. But let's say like marketing translations especially, where you have to sort of repackage that message in a way that's going to make sense to the new audience. And like when I, way back, I worked in an agency, a translation agency in Tokyo. And I started as a junior translation checker. And I would get a Japanese translation and I would have to check the English, comparing the two. And, you know, we got a lot of Japanese people were doing this into English, and I would check and see if it all, you know, aligned properly. And then there was this one guy, American guy called Ian. And when I read his translations, they were just a league above the others that I had read. Like the ability he had to read something in Japanese and then to move away from the Japanese and to put it into English that was so eloquent and so. But the thing was, I remember my boss.
That's odd.
Yeah, the client had got the Japanese and he'd got the translation back. He had the English, and he was trying to find this sentence is there.
Corresponds, right?
But this American guy had just not translated it like that. You couldn't always find like this sentence in the Japanese is this sentence in the English. He would like take a paragraph and he would like reshape all of this. It was just, it's difficult to kind of put it into words really, but he had this ability to repackage it in a way that somehow it was exactly like it was in the Japanese, but it was totally, it really sort of, it was just so eloquent in the English. And it wasn't
so natural in English. The way it just flowed.
Exactly, and it wasn't like word for word matched, but it was brilliant. And I've always thought there is a kind of creativity in that, like in that process of people who are able to do that, because not all translators can do it. You know, I worked on translations where, you know, they were not at that level. And some people can do it and some people can't. And some people just have this ability to just take something and reshape it. And it's fantastic.
Some people just have the natural thing, like a knack or something. Yeah.
And which do you prefer? I guess you prefer the interpreting, do you, to translation? Or
yes, I prefer interpreting to translation, though I do translate from time to time, like with the clients that I have developed good relationship with.
And do you feel like over the years you sort of, you must sort of, you get quicker, you get these like kind of these kind of tactics, or you just know how to approach something when you get like a text. You just sort of developed these abilities over time.
Well, obviously I can't speak for others, but what really contributed to my, experience and career was the training that I had in the subtitling school in Tokyo.
Okay.
Because that really covered, how should I say, like, as well, of course, translating is one thing, but it's not only about knowing two languages. It was about research. And finding the, say, regular translation for example, like set terms and things like that, how to go about it, and how, when you can't find equivalent terms, how you should go about it, what to avoid. And without that kind of training, you can tell straight away. I can, when I do proofreading or like, editing and that, there are times that, if the project is large and it's split into several or sometimes 10 translators, and some of them have, show the signs that they are trained. So basically we're on a very similar page. But others are like, for example, in the classical music world, the world of classical music, I should have said, sorry, the double bass in Japanese is kontrabasu. Yeah, it's always kontrabasu. It's never bass. That's a rock term. But yes, it does say bass in English. So this translator would translate always as bass. But that's an English term. You wouldn't say that in classical context. So that would increase my work, because you have to go through all of the tens of thousands of words and go through them. So I basically return them to the project manager, saying look, these people have translated these words this way. And not only that, because one thing is everything. So you can spot what was the other one? Like Gregory or something. It was, I can beat you at dominoes, that kind of music. Chants, Gregorian chants.
Oh, okay. Yes. I got it. Yeah.
Yes, but you can't say Gregorian, for example.
Yeah.
You have to say, you have to find the equivalent in Japanese.
Yeah.
how it is said always. But there are a bunch of people who don't do that. So the quality quickly deteriorates.
Yeah. They're sort of not, it's just the easiest way to translate it rather than what really will resonate or has meaning for the target audience.
Exactly. So it's either that they couldn't be bothered and if they thought they could get away with it, then I can pick up and then I can do it, or they just didn't know.
Yeah.
Meaning that they're not really trained. They should be trained that way. Because otherwise it's, causes chaos, basically.
Yeah. And I mean, like you said a while ago, sort of some people say, Japanese is the most difficult language in the world, or, we don't want to sort of make these sort of too big generalizations, but sometimes there's a gap, there's a cultural gap, there's a linguistic gap between English and Japanese that seems quite far sometimes, and to be able to take the English or take the Japanese and put it into the other language so that it makes sense for the reader, for the target audience. It's really is a skill. It's not one that if you speak English, if you speak Japanese, doesn't mean you can translate. I mean, I remember, so when I had this job back in Tokyo, and the first time my boss ever gave me a little, there was a website page to translate. I was so excited. It was about dentistry, and
hard.
I've made it.
That's
hard. It was actually, but and I translated it, and I was all very excited, And then I think about a week later, somehow it'd gone back to the client, and somehow I sort of came across it again, and I looked at it, and I was like, it's, you wouldn't believe, although I translated it into English in my own language, you would not believe that it was a native English speaker that wrote that piece of content, because it was basically me reading Japanese and putting Japanese sentences, having English sentences still with too much of a Japanese sentence structure. So it just sounded like, So, but this is a long, long time ago. And I haven't done any dentistry translation since, thank goodness. But you can totally see when there are some people who, they're very, very faithful to the original text. They can't move away from it, and you can see it. It's just so clunky to read, and it's such a skill to get past that. So I really sort of admire that, and also with the interpreting as well, the simultaneous interpreting. I can't get my head around how that is possible, but it's fascinating.
I completely agree with you.
She says up to 20 years, she's like, I don't know.
Completely.
I don't know how I do it.
There's a book only written in Japanese, I think, but I wish it were translated into English.
Okay.
I can try and direct translate the title of the book. So, would you like what's the word? You might have to snip.
We'll cut here. Yeah.
It's like I'm trying to come up with it. So it's it's not honest. What's the word? Something to do with fidelity. But chaste but ugly woman, or pretty but unchaste, unfaithful woman.
Okay. So
that's almost like a euphemism, or that's how do you say the It's not acronym. What's the analogy? Of translation.
Okay.
So what you were saying about this American guy who was really eloquent is
he's fantastic.
Not chaste to the source.
Okay, right.
kind of unfaithful
Yes,
to the sport. Although it's
yeah,
pretty.
because the client was just like, this sentence is not here, and this sentence is, but it was all there.
Exactly.
It was all there. It was just not necessarily, the word order was just not necessarily following the Japanese, and I said to my boss, I was like, this is one of the best translations I've ever written, I've ever read. And he was like, so yeah, I don't know if you managed to convince the client on that, but it was brilliant. It was brilliant. It was the league above the rest. So
so I think it is to do with the what's it called? The style guide.
Mm-hmm.
The style guide that you give all the instructions what to do and what not to, kind of thing. So it should be included in that, or like how much you can or you should deviate, like what you prioritize. That should be discussed beforehand.
Yes, that is true, definitely.
And then it's down to what translator is capable of.
Yeah, that is true. I suppose you can do that, but sometimes actually the clients actually just don't want you to do it, and you can argue till you're blue in the face, but it's just not what they want for whatever reason. Maybe they want,
especially marketing.
Yeah, yes,
that's a nightmare.
Do you think so?
If you just like literally like word for word translation just doesn't work. There are times I do a lot of focus group interpreting.
Okay.
Yes, focus group sessions. And then when I try to arrive any venue, like about about an hour before the set time. Yeah. Because chances are the moderator would like to change words so that would speak to the the interviewees. Yeah, marketing, that's, the ultimate. I mean, there are certain texts, certain types of content which are maybe quite dry, and you don't really have to do too much. Maybe you are just kind of really translating what is there, put it into English. But with marketing, you would definitely want somebody who's kind of got that skill down pat, because otherwise it's going to sound really clunky. So it's all translated and proofread by natives. Well, we call it native Czech, don't we? So it's proofread in English, but still clunky. So what I can do then is that I can try and explain the nuance and what's behind it and why, that sort of thing, like everything between lines. Yeah, exactly. To the moderator, and then she or he can come up with what he or she thinks works. Yeah. Then you'll have to change all the wording of all the documents that you're going to hand out. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So that's why I try to get there. Arrive like an hour before. Very good. That's very very dedicated, very kind of you. I like it. It's really, that part is very creative. Yeah. Not only, but that part certainly, I would say, is a creative moment. Yeah. Okay. And so we'll sort of come to the last question now, but we've talked about interpreting and some translation, a little bit about marketing translation, but we'll finish off in the world of literary translation. So this is, not an area that back in the day when I did a little bit of translation, is not an area that I ever, it's quite a rare kind of area for people to get into. It's hard to break into that kind of scene. And I know that, your focus is more on business, business-related translation and interpreting. But, in terms of like books that we've read, I've got mine here. So, it's always good. Like we said about film, it's very shiny. Like we said about film, reading foreign language books can also sort of open up
a new world, or can take you back to the world that you enjoyed being in. In this case, you can't see it. I'll probably put this over the video when I edit it. But this is called Strange Weather in Tokyo, and it's by let me get this right, Hiromi Kawakami. So Kawakami Hiromi-san. I love it. I really love it. It's very romantic in a very sort of subtle way. But the translator was Alison Markin Powell. It's been translated into British English. At some point, it would be quite nice to maybe go back and read the Japanese version. Sometimes it's kind of nice to sort of see if any of it sort of feels a little bit different. The title in Japanese is called Sensei no Kaban.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so.
That's completely different.
Completely different. It's interesting, isn't it? Because so the title in English is Strange Weather in Tokyo. This kind of very romantic, not in a cheesy way. It's a very beautiful book. Strange Weather in Tokyo. The Japanese title is Sensei no Kaban, which is the teacher's briefcase. So, talking about this gap, between the kind of cultural meaning, it's a very interesting difference between titles there. But how about you? Have you got any, foreign language books or, Japanese books that have been translated that you enjoy, and maybe, you've read in both languages, or you'd be interested to read in a different language?
In English?
Well, either. Or, yeah.
Well, I was kind of latching on to what you were saying, about the titles. So it can be just, as short as like a few words. Yeah. And it's only a title. So can you just translate it? Okay, to be able to translate a title, you have to read the whole book. Yeah. That's a common, misconception or misunderstanding, so I say. I'm not saying it's their fault, the client's fault or anything. It's just that, that's what it takes. And if the potential client appreciates that, then that would, make their life much easier, I think. Yeah. But anyway, with the book, I quite enjoyed, although it was still difficult for me in terms of the register of the language, was that Bushido.
Bushido?
Yes. Bushido? Have you read Bushido?
No. No.
It's done by Nitobe Inazo. So it's quite a while ago. It's about, Bushido. And I really was impressed by the level of English. And then only after that, I learned that his wife is British. I could be wrong. I stand to be corrected. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, that his wife was British. And I don't know exactly if she was involved in translation, but it's beautifully done in English. The level of language as well.
I mean,
Kazuo Ishiguro is not really translated, is it? It's not.
Oh no, I think he did
it directly. It's originally written in English.
Yeah, he's obviously very popular. Because he's British Japanese, isn't he? He's not. He. I think he was born in the UK, wasn't he? Or...
It's that you said British Japanese, right? We call him Nikkei Girisujin.
Nikkei Girisujin. Ah, okay.
It's the other way around.
Second generation English.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or second generation Japanese living in England, or something, something like that. So it's always like, okay, which one? Anyway.
But it's an amazing skill, isn't it? The people that can translate these novels, it's unbelievable, because as you said, I don't know how they do it, but surely they have to read the whole thing first before they even start to think about translating. I can't imagine. There's so much you need to know the characters, and you need to know how the plot develops, and all these kind of things. And maybe the title comes last, because how they got from Sensei no Kaban to Straight Tokyo is interesting. But
very much.
Yeah, and
but there's always something lost in translation, isn't there? Oh, sorry to interrupt.
No. But yeah, it's true, isn't it? I guess sometimes it's maybe it isn't always possible to capture the original nuances, or not completely.
I think so.
Yeah.
Like, especially something so inherent in one culture, like the original culture. In this case, let's say Japan, Japanese culture. When we talk about ofuro, that's one word, and we know what it entails, but not necessarily bath. But
the
experience is different.
Yeah, if I say bath in the UK, I mean, if you say bath in Japan is a totally different level of.
Exactly. So yeah, that's what I experienced when I worked with or for KonMari, Marie Kondo, and she would say ofuro just like that, meaning everything that comes with it.
Yeah.
But obviously, the other party doesn't understand or doesn't share that kind of experience. So that's when I have to kind of question myself and her if. I have the time that, taking a bath is a little bit different in the UK, or should I not? That sort of thing, because it's just one word. It's so simple,
but there's so much meaning attached to the Japanese word. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
that it can lead to later misunderstandings. For example, it could.
Yeah. It's fascinating. But as a final point, I need to. So, when we spoke about doing this episode together, and we talked a little bit about books and things like that, and I remember that you mentioned this book that you'd read about interpreting.
Yes.
This Japanese professor had written a book about interpreting.
He's one of the pioneers of simultaneous interpreting in Japan, and he's late. Sen Nishiyama, Mr. Sen Nishiyama, and he wrote about interpreting English and Japanese. He was born in the States, but he was perfectly bilingual, like both native.
Yeah, wow.
And his English was very eloquent and elegant, and very much. And he's the one who interpreted the famous line of the Apollo 11.
That's amazing. Yeah. So let's get this right. So it's one small step for a man.
One small step for a man, and the giant leap for mankind.
But even Neil Armstrong got that a little bit wrong, didn't he? Because there's a bit of, he missed out the "a." So he said one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind, and of course the all-important "a." It's this one. It's one letter, but you can't quite hear it. Whether he really said it or not, I'm not sure. But that one missing letter was like, But tell us what the translation is then in Japanese. I'm just curious because I'm a space nerd and I love stuff about space.
Because in Japanese, as you know, that we don't really differentiate in that kind of way. So it's なんだっけな、ちょっと待ってください。
はい。
カットしてね。すごい有名なんだけど、人類にとって小さな一歩です。これ、人間にとっては、もう一回いきます。
はい。
Yes, so that goes as 人間にとっては小さな一歩だが、人類にとっては大きな一歩です。
Okay.
So that's quite straightforward.
It is. Yeah, it's very straightforward. Yeah, but that's great. Oh my God, that's amazing that he was the one who did the interpreting for the moon landing. That's great. And so he's written this book, How to Be
Yes,
great at
exactly.
interpreting. Wow.
And he
Wow.
does talk about it in his books,
Mm.
how it was, because he had to do it live.
Oh. Mm. Yeah.
So yeah, I think he had to think on his feet like
Yeah.
very quickly. But it was
Yeah.
imagine it was broadcast
Yeah.
nationwide and
Yeah.
everyone was watching it. At the
Yes.
time,
Yeah.
the television then was different from now.
Yeah. Everybody sat around the TV together and watched that
Just
movie
that
unfold.
thought.
Yeah.
You know, that really freaks me out.
Oh, pressure. That is pressure.
It is.
So, oh, that's fantastic. Well, we'll finish up here. But it's been absolutely really good fun to speak with you. It's been really interesting, and I'm sure we'll catch up again. And I'm always fascinated to hear your stories and your experiences. I wish you all the best with this year. With everything that's been thrown at us. I hope you have a good 2021, and we'll catch up again soon.
Yes, and thank you very much. And the fun was all mine. It's always great to talk with you, Lucy. And thank you very much for having me on your exclusive show.
Ooh.
And I hope, and then I am sure your audience will enjoy. Well, I hope.
Yes, they will.
If they find it fun.
Yeah, I'm sure.
That's all I am here for. But thank you very much.
No problem. Okay, we'll speak again soon. Bye-bye.
Okay, great. Bye.
Bye.